911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. How is everyone doing? I have had a really, really long day. It's been interesting for me today. It's super cold here. We have sorry, my hair, I flipped my head and my hair is all messed up. It's gonna drive me crazy. Hold on. We have a freeze warning for tonight. It's supposed to freeze and get down below 32 degrees. I laugh because people have been, getting flowers and wanting to get outside and do some planting because we've had some warm days too this past month. And my grandmother always told me never plant flowers in the Midwest before Mother's Day because you can always end up getting frost or freeze or snow. And so today it actually snowed today. We had, it wasn't major. I mean, it was flurries and stuff like that, but it was cold and it snowed. So it was a bit much. Hey, Jill, how are you, my dear? Hey, help me, Rhonda. Good to see you. Hi, Melissa. Glad you found me. Hey, Dave. How are you? Hey, Dustin. Good to see you. Hey, Indy Pam. How are you doing? Hey, Lizzie Dripping. How are you? Oh, Lizzie, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. Oh, Melissa, that's pretty warm. It's not like that here. Hi, Andy Pam. How are you? I saw my oldest one and my youngest one today. My middle one was at his dad's this weekend. And the oldest one is old enough now, he doesn't have to go anymore if he doesn't want to. And so he's actually coaching the youngest one's soccer team. So he stayed, didn't go to his dad's. The two older ones usually go to their dad's every other week. So anyway, I got to see my little one, my 5-year-old and my 19-year-old. So it was a good day, and I have my new grandbaby dog, my new grand dog. His name is Fallon, and he is adorable. You guys, for those of you who follow me, you know that back in January, my daughter and her family lost their English Mastiff. We had him as a part of our family for 8 years, and he, right around before Christmas, he got a cut on his paw, on his pad, and it just continued. It wasn't healing, and it got a really bad infection that went into the bone. And the infection just kept getting worse, and they tried and tried. They put him under and debrided it and did all these things, and it just wasn't working. And so finally they had to put him down, and it was so sad. So I'm really glad that they finally were able to find a new puppy. He is a rescue from Tennessee. The no-kill shelter locally here got some dogs in from down there, and he's a 1.5 years old, and he's so cute. He's super short. He's like corgi leg short. I mean, his legs may be a little bit taller than corgis, and he looks like he's got terrier in him. He's of maybe a couple of different types of terrier, but he has super short hair. From the back, when you look at his head from the back, he looks like Dobby, the housewife or the house elf from Harry Potter. But he's got a beautiful face, and we all are very smitten with him right now. So anyway, that's happening. They were able to finally pick him up on Thursday. So at least we got to see the kids today. Hi, Sees Through All. How are you? I hope you're doing well, Indy Pam. Yeah, Dave, I have a feeling we're going to get more rain and cold and sleet and all that stuff. Hey, Mrs. Thang, how are you doing? Good to see you, my dear. Let's see. All right. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see. Oh, Lizzie, you are so nice. You are so welcome here, and you're welcome to chat anytime. Please don't feel afraid or intimidated. Everyone here is kind, and if not, they won't be here very long. So I try to make it, we talk about such heavy topics and such sad topics that to me, it's always, I try to keep it as upbeat as I possibly can and as friendly as I can possibly do as well. But yeah. So let's see. Hey, Mitzi, how are you? Good to see you. My saying is, if you can't be anything else, be kind. It doesn't take anything to be kind. And that's just how I try to live my life, and how I've tried to teach my children to live and my grandchildren to live. And I hope that that's what I've instilled in them, to grow up to be decent human beings who care and who treat others with respect, and are caring and compassionate. So, hey, Lisa, thank you for saying that. I love that you guys are all so welcoming, especially to new people that we haven't seen in chat before. It's always nice to welcome them and make them feel part of the Doors community, because that's what we are here. We're a community, and we can only be as good as you guys make it. Like I told you guys before, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You guys make it all worthwhile for me. So, and I appreciate all of you showing up. You guys never cease to amaze me. But yeah, it was really cold this morning for an 8:30 soccer match with the 5-year-old. It wasn't even 40. I think it was like 36 or 37 degrees this morning. So, but yeah. Yeah, Dustin, I know it's really cold up there. I have family that lives up there, and it is cold up there. It's colder up there than it is right here right now, but I think we're getting close to you guys. So, but tonight, you guys, we're going to talk about Delphi. Like I told you guys before, I know that everybody wants to hear about Delphi, and I found something on Reddit over the last few days, and I thought, well, this is a good topic. I know that we have talked about this topic in past live streams before on my channel, but I have so many new subscribers that I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to go over this again, because I think that it is important, and especially with a lot of the conversation that I've seen going on social media and around the case with the staging and posing of the crime scene. So I thought that it would be a really good topic to cover again. Steve from True Crime Web has covered this topic with me live on my channel many times. We've talked about it. I've also talked about it with Hoosier Cold Case, another friend. So it's not something that I'm unfamiliar with, but I did look up some new information so that we could possibly all learn together tonight and have just a good conversation about it. Hang on one second, because I'm putting my notes all together so that I don't get sidetracked tonight, you guys. I don't know if you guys hey, Babs Forever, how are you? Good to see you. Oh, cool, Dustin. It'll be interesting to hear what that is. I always take everything that's not coming from law enforcement with a grain of salt, just so you know. I'm not one to just jump in both feet when we don't hear it from law enforcement. So, oh, you take care, Mitzi. You guys out there on the Jersey Shore, you can get some really wild weather as well. And he's been such a blessing, the new puppy. Seriously, for this dog who they believe was a street dog, he was at least found on the street. I think that he's been socialized. At some point, he was somebody's dog, because he's not afraid. He loves people. He's wonderful with my 5-year-old grandson. He just adores him. He follows him around and they play catch together. He's just wonderful. But he's going to be small, which is great. I mean, they it's like opposite ends of the spectrum. They had this 180-pound English Mastiff, and now they have this probably, I would say, maybe a 25-pound dog now, who's probably pretty much full grown. So it is a big difference and a big change, but his personality is just amazing and so cute. So they are fun. I don't know if you guys heard that. Hold on a second. What was Lizzie saying? Oh, I think it's fine. Lizzie, don't let people make fun of your name. You have it for your reason, and we're here to support you. Hey, Kamala. Good to see you. Yeah, well, you're in Florida. We would expect beautiful weather, right? But welcome to the Crime Door. So good to have you. Hey, Mitzi, thank you so much for your super sticker. I appreciate you and everything that you do. You know what, Lisa? It's so funny that you mentioned Cape May. When I was 10, we went to my aunt and uncle lived in Maryland, and we went to visit them, and we actually ended up taking the ferry from Cape May, New Jersey to Lewes, Delaware. And I have pictures of me standing. I wasn't 10, sorry. I must have been 8. I think I was 8 at the time. And I just remember standing next to the wheel of the ferry, and I was so little. But they honked the horn of the ship and scared me to death. Those are the things I remember from that trip. So I've actually been to Cape May before. Oh, wow, Melissa, that's something to try to train your cats when they're outdoors. You got your hands full there. I never have ever let my cats be outside unless they were on a leash with me, no matter how many or who the cats were growing up. I just didn't want them to get into fights or get into trouble. And I know that there's a lot of people who let their cats go outside and wander and stuff, but I just worry about them getting into trouble. Aw. Oh, Lizzie, I'm sorry that you've been doing poorly. I hope things look up for you, and you're always welcome here. Yeah, Melissa, you can actually teach them to walk on a leash. And if they really balk at having the leash just attached to the collar, I would actually go with a harness, because you don't put pressure on their little larynx and their throat. You can really hurt them. Dogs too, if they're pullers, but cats too. You can actually crush their windpipes by pulling or them pulling on you. But I found that my cats that I've used leashes on loved it, and they love to go for walks and be out with you in the grass and stuff like that. So, but that way they're always safe when you have them outside, and you don't have to worry about them getting away from you, or getting into it with other cats that are feral or just outdoor cats that like to muck it up, because the tomcats especially like to get into fights. So anyway, I hope it, like I said, I hope everybody's doing well. That was pretty much my day today. I pretty much told you guys what I did today. And I've been looking forward to my live tonight, and to see you guys. The last couple days it's been really busy, and I like when I can just sit here and talk with you guys. It's just kind of nice. It's relaxing for me as well. So I wanted to tell you about a case. The New York City police are searching for a woman who was abducted off the street and whisked away in a minivan after midnight. And she was abducted off of the intersection of Avenue W and Stillwell Avenue. And it's just kind of scary. It happened last night in the early morning, or it happened in the early morning hours of Friday morning. And police say that the female victim was kidnapped by an unknown male at that intersection around 1:45 a.m. on Friday. He actually picks her up in his arms, and carries her and puts her in the van. She is described as being in her 20s. She has a light complexion and long hair. She's approximately 5'5". She weighs around 120 pounds, and she was last seen wearing a striped shirt, a blue skirt, and white sneakers. Police say that the male suspect is in his 30s. Approximately, he has a light complexion, facial hair. He's approximately 5'10", weighs around 175 pounds. And during the abduction, the suspect wore a black shirt, dark pants, and black sneakers. The New York police did release photos of the abduction, and one shows the suspect with outreached hands approaching the victim at an intersection. Police say the suspect fled northbound on Stillwell Avenue. The vehicle used in the abduction was a late model Toyota minivan with unknown registration. There are no further details were released, and no arrests have been made as of Saturday. This happened in New York City, Melissa. And they are asking that anyone with information on this abduction is asked to call the New York City Police Department's Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800-577-8477. And this is an abduction from the city. And there was another one late last month where a woman was abducted, beaten, and raped inside a bus in Staten Island. So they did arrest someone for that. The suspect was 30-year-old Alexander Isaac, and he is facing several charges, including kidnapping, rape, assault, unlawful imprisonment, and criminal possession of a weapon. I'm going to show you the couple of pictures that I have, just so that you guys can see what this person looks like. It's not real good footage, in my opinion, but it's what we have. So here's the picture of him picking her up and carrying her and putting her in the van. This is a picture of him approaching her. She was walking across the crosswalk going to this side of the street. He approaches her like this with his arms up, waving his arms, and picks her up and just carries her and puts her in the van. And this is a picture of the van. So I wanted you guys to hear about that and share it if you can. I'm going to put a link in the comments. Just a minute. And if you want to share the story on your own social media, then you can. That way, the more people that see her story can maybe identify this person. Okay. So, moving right along. Oops. There is another story that I wanted to talk about and update you on, but the family of a missing student is baffled after the footage shows her vanishing into the fog near the Golden Gate Bridge. Sydney West was last seen on September 30th of 2020. The family of a UC Berkeley student who went missing in 2020 is still searching for answers about what happened to their daughter. Sydney West was last seen walking towards San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge on September 30th of 2020. Just one second, I'm going to bring up her picture so that you guys can see her. Just give me a sec, guys. Just a moment. Oh, where did she go? There she is. I'm like, where is she? You click on it and it disappears and it disappears and disappears and okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Get you down here. Okay. So this is a picture of her. And her name was Sydney West. She is still missing, and they are searching for answers as to what happened to their daughter. And as I said, she was last seen walking towards San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge on September 30th, 2020. The 19-year-old student was captured on surveillance video around 6:45 a.m. around Crissy Field, a popular recreation area. It was foggy, but she kind of just disappears into the fog. A private investigator named Scott Dudek has been working on the case, and he spoke with Fox News. You would think if somebody went and crawled up on the rails with all these people and bike riders, somebody would have either called, which that never happened, or somebody would have tried to talk to her and try to come forward with all the publicity, and that never happened. There were a lot of people on the bridge that morning, so that's what continues to baffle everyone, West's mom, Kimberly West, told the outlet. According to a website dedicated to her disappearance, Sydney suffered a concussion in the summer of 2020 before her move to Berkeley. At Berkeley, she was taking classes remotely because of COVID, and this proved challenging for her, and she made the decision to defer until the fall of 2020 so she could fully recover, the website said. Sydney's father, Jay West, told KRON4 in 2021 that he spoke to his daughter the night before she vanished. We talked for a long time, a couple of hours, in fact. We talked a lot about loving each other. I fully expected to talk to her the next day, he said. She was staying with family friends in the Bay Area, and on the morning of her disappearance, she took a rideshare service to the Crissy Field area where she often went to exercise and take photographs. Her family, who live in North Carolina, reported her missing on October 1st, 2020, according to the website. The San Francisco Police Department sent out a press release on October 2nd, 2020, asking the public's assistance, stating that she was considered an at-risk person due to depression. In a statement to KRON4, the San Francisco Police Department said, this missing person case is still an open investigation. And at this time, we do not have any evidence that foul play was involved. We do not have any updates to release at this time. According to the website, Sydney was last seen wearing a light teal hoodie, tropical print Vans sneakers, and dark leggings. Her backpack was later found around the Golden Gate Bridge. A $25,000 reward has been offered for information leading to Sydney's whereabouts. Anyone with information about Sydney is asked to contact private investigator Scott Dudek at 925-705-8328 or dudek.associates@gmail.com. So like I said, they still do not have any idea what happened to her. They have video evidence of her just disappearing into the fog. And I just, like I've said before, I can't imagine being a parent and having to live life not knowing what happened to my daughter. It is just horrific. And, you know, it's like they said, there were a lot of people on the bridge. You can walk out onto the bridge. There was a lot of people in the park by the bridge. Somebody would have seen her if she was trying to commit suicide on the bridge. So nobody reported anything. So it makes you really kind of wonder what actually happened to her. So let's see. Oh, I'm looking. Hey, Miracle Hearts 2, how are you? Welcome. Oh, I'm so sorry, Lizzie, that you had to have a surgery. I'm so sorry to hear that. Definitely will be sending some prayers up that you heal really quickly. Yeah, Lisa, she is. She looks like a very carefree, beautiful, happy 19-year-old. Hi, Ava Hawkshaw. Yeah. See, that's what's so sad about these cases. If they don't get much airplay, people don't hear about them because they're just a story, a one-time story in the newspaper, you know, or whatever. And it's hard to get the stories out there to where people know what's going on. So the more we can share her story, the better off we are. Hey, Ray, how are you? Hi, Butterfly Kisses. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well, Ray. Good to have you. Of course you can. Yeah, we do. You're for sure about that. Hey, Diamond Eyes, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, Boston, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, Westeros, Will, nice to have you with us tonight. Nice to see you all. Oh, that sounds good. I hope you're having something good for dinner, Ava. Oh, wow. I am. I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for asking. So let's see what's next on the stage here. So I wanted to talk to you guys about murder scene staging and how and what it means. We talked a little bit the other night what the differences are between staging and posing. And believe it or not, there is a difference. And a lot of people are not familiar with the differences. And so it's important that you do understand them, when you're thinking about these cases, Delphi specifically, because that's what we're talking about this evening. We're going to also talk about what the staging can mean or point to because of a victim-offender relationship. Now, a lot of times when crime scenes are staged, the staging is when someone does something at a crime scene to make it appear to be something that it's not. Hence, they go in and they commit a murder, and they try to stage the apartment or the house to make it look like it was ransacked, and that there was a burglary of some kind. And that is a way to try to throw the investigators off when the police arrive, to make them think that it was a robbery gone bad. And that is why the person ended up murdered or deceased. Well, there's a lot of things that can go into that because, of course, we're going to talk about some of that and what the forensic team has to do when they come in to recreate a crime scene, and they have to try to figure out what happened there or what took place. And there's all kinds of things that go into that. And it is like a puzzle, as Doug Carter has talked about for so many years, about it being a puzzle and that we just needed one more piece of that puzzle. And so we need to keep all of that in mind when we're thinking about the Delphi case. So when the Ron Logan search warrant came out is when we first had confirmation by law enforcement that there was staging that occurred at the murder scene. There had been rumors over the years that there had been posing of the bodies and that the bodies had been posed. A posing of a body is exactly what it sounds like. It's where you take a body and you make that body do something that it was not doing. In other words, sitting it up against a tree, possibly posing it in some sort of a sexual pose, some sort of other type of pose. There's all kinds of things that can happen with posing, but it is completely different than staging. And the studies that the FBI have done and other jurisdictions, including the DOJ, suggest that when staging occurs at a murder scene, there is usually some sort of a connection between the victim and the offender. And sometimes it can be familial, but that's not always the case. And no one should ever run with that and just assume right off the bat that that's what is going on. But it is something that you have to keep in the forefront of your mind when you're looking at these cases as an investigator. Of course, not us. We're just lay people sitting in a chair behind a computer. We don't see all the evidence. We're not privy to everything that happened at that crime scene. We didn't get to see the photos that were taken at the crime scene. We haven't got to see how the bodies may have been posed. We don't know what the staging was that took place at the crime scene. We do know, because Robert Ives told us, that it was a highly unusual scene, not something that you would think of. You knew that a murder had taken place there, but there were other things that were so out of the ordinary that you would see at a crime scene of murder that he felt you would be compelled to take photographs of it. So there was something there that was completely foreign to them as investigators who have been to crime scenes of murder, and it did not look anything like they were used to. According to the experts, staging is a way for the killer or the offender to put distance between the victim and themselves. And especially if they do have a close relationship with their victim, because they would, of course, be the logical suspect. So I'm assuming that they probably do see a lot of staging in familial murders where it's a family member, husbands that kill their wives, for example. They're going to stage it and try to make it seem like it's completely somebody else because they're going to always be the very first suspect, right? We've heard that. 9 times out of 10, that's who it is, that it's either the significant other, an ex, husband, boyfriend, or it's a current interest, love interest. So, and the offender's aim in all of this is to confuse the investigators as much as they could possibly confuse them, because they want to make them believe that someone else is the person who committed the crime, not them. They want to disguise their motive, and a lot of times they want to make the murders look like accidents. How many times have we heard about, oh, she slipped and fell getting out of the bathtub, or things like that. She slipped and fell down the stairs. She hit her head on the swimming pool. She slipped on the water by the side of the pool in our backyard and hit her head and fell in and drowned. Or, there's just so many of them about what they try to make it look like, and make it look or seem accidental. Now, obviously, in the Abby and Libby case, I don't think that anybody would have ever believed that what happened to them in that woods that day was accidental. So I don't think that that was part of their thought process at all when law enforcement became aware of what had happened in those woods. But I do think that they immediately, their minds went to, for whatever reason, we're going to solve this within just a few days. We heard that from Hammond. We heard that from Lesenby. We heard that from the communication officer. Oh, what's his name? I can't think of it right now, right off the top of my head. But there were like five different law enforcement people, state police, Carroll County, as well as FBI, who told us in the very first few days, weeks, that they thought that this crime was going to be solved quickly. Now, there was something at that crime scene that made them feel that way. Hey, Steve, how are you, my dear? It's so good to have you here. I'm so happy you're here. You should come up with me. I should send you my link and you should come talk with me about all this because you're such the expert. You let me know if you want to. I know you just got done with your own live, but you let me know since you're out there. So they are, they're thinking about how do we put this all together? There was something that they saw when they arrived in the woods that made them believe first and foremost that this perpetrator was local. And I know for the most part, I think everyone involved felt that way and really didn't jump off of that thought process the entire time of the investigation. They always believed that this guy was going to be local. But they're always trying to try to figure out who would want to do something bad to the victim, who or what is going to, lead them to be a logical suspect. And they obviously start at close relationships of the victims and work their way out from that. They start looking at familial suspects. They start looking at the family members and the friends and the close acquaintances, no matter what, even if it's just teenagers. You know, we've got a 13 and 14-year-old here. They're young. They're still going to look at, oh, great. Go ahead, Steve. Let me send you a link, hon. Just give me a minute. Hang on, guys. I'm just going to send him a link so that he can come on with me. I always love having him on my show. And I miss him. Hold on a second. Where are you, Stevie? Let's see. Steve, I'm going to send it to you in a text. You let me know if you wanted an email instead. Okay. Sorry, I got a window that's just not wanting to close. I'm going to have to shut that down at some point. Okay. Okay, so. Hey, Maria. Hi, my dear. So good to see you. So good to see you, my friend. So these offenders do try to confuse law enforcement. And let's see. So when I was looking at some of the data, it basically said that some of the ways, besides an accident, some of the common ways killers will try and stage a murder crime scene is by making it appear to be a natural death, making it try to make it appear to be a suicide, a violent, sadistic murder. They will actually make the murder scene look violent and sadistic to veer the police and law enforcement away from them. As I said before, a robbery gone bad, or they will try and cover up the murder by performing an arson fire. So, oh, thank you so much, my dear. I will get to that in a minute because I'm not sure why she thinks that either, Lisa, because Libby was far from weak. There was nothing weak about Libby. She was a very strong, physically strong girl, very athletic, and very good at the athletics that she participated in. So, yeah. Anyway, I don't think we're supposed to assume anything, Diamond Eyes. Law enforcement has arrested Richard Allen and charged him with 2 counts of murder. So, yeah, I mean, that's their suspect. That's who they have the evidence against. And he has placed himself on that bridge on that day at that time wearing the exact same clothes as Bridge Guy in the video that Libby took on that bridge that day. So, yeah, I don't think that there is, yes. Well, I don't know if it was Richard Allen. I don't know that that's been proven yet, but in my mind, it is him that did it. Yes, because I believe he's the one who committed the crime. I do believe that he is the guy who committed the crime in my mind. And until I hear evidence to say otherwise. I mean, I don't know what else he would have been doing and why he would have brandished a gun and ordered them to go down a hill if he did not have some sort of a plan in mind of what he wanted to do. Now, whether or not he wanted to just assault and not kill, and things got out of hand, that could very well be true. But I just don't know. And the girls, Ray is absolutely right. The girls were so close and loved each other. If you're, well, especially, I mean, guys have these relationships too, but I believe that the age the girls were and being female, I can attest to how I felt about my best friend at that age. She's still my best friend to this very day. We are like this, and we have been for over 50 years. She is everything to me. I can't even begin to tell you, we have shared our entire lives practically together. But even at that age, that's how close we were. I would have done anything to protect her. And I know she would have done the same for me. And I think that is what I think is so special about Abby and Libby. And, no matter what happened, neither one of them left each other. And I'm sure that there was at some point in this whole scenario where they could have tried to run in opposite directions, because had they done that, he would have had to have made a choice about one or the other, and one would probably have gotten away. And that is what I was thinking, or have always thought, about what transpired that day after they were ordered down the hill, and they just stayed together. And that's what I feel like. I think that Abby was the first one to be caught, and he dealt with her first, and then he went to Abby, or to Libby. I'm sorry. Libby was the last one. And I think that Libby may have fought so hard that she did take the brunt of his anger that day. And as far as targeting them, JDR, I don't know that we have any evidence. Okay, True Crime Web, Steve, I'm emailing it. Just give me one quick second here. Where is my email? Hold on. I had set my email down, so just give me a minute. I had shut my window down. I gotta find it. There it is. Compose. Steve. Okay, Steve, I sent it to you, my dear. So we don't know that the girls were targeted for sure. We don't know anything about that. As far as why, we don't know motive, and we don't know what led him to the girls. Whether or not it was him out there looking for somebody to assault that day, and they happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. We don't know yet. That we're going to have to wait. Those kinds of questions are going to have to wait until trial. Hey, TTM fangirl, how are you? Good to see you. So I don't think that he really ever intended to use the gun, because I don't think he knew people were out there, and he didn't want to draw attention to them by shooting, because he knows that somebody would have heard him. So, I mean, there's just so many things that could have happened here. Um, yeah, there he is. Hang on, guys. I want to bring him on. For everybody that's new here, and if you're not familiar with Steve from True Crime Web, well, he's a really good friend and he has his own channel, which is absolutely amazing. And you need to make sure that you check him out. He is a retired law enforcement officer and he's really great. And there he is. Hello, my friend.
Got my hot coffee and I'm ready.
Good for you. You've gotten some sun out there, boy. You look
Oh,
like you've been in the sun.
I have. I've been on the tractor for the last 2 days. And,
I figured it looks like you got some Georgia sunshine coming on you.
the true meaning of a Georgia redneck.
How's the weather been down there? Have you been getting bad storms?
We have. We had some come through last night, but nothing like happened last week and stuff. But yeah, it's just that time of year.
It's
And
that time of year up here too. We've been having horrendous ones, and it never fails. It did it to me again on Thursday night. It decided it wanted to have a tornado warning right when I'm supposed to go live, and I'm just like, what is going on? So, but anyway, safe up here, so that's good news. It's good to see you. I'm talking about Delphi tonight with the murder scene staging victim offender relationships.
okay.
And I thought it would be great to have you on because when I saw you show up, because I'm like, you're an expert at this stuff.
I don't know about that, but I'll give you my best shot at it.
I know you will, because I saw a post on Reddit this week, and they were talking about this very topic, and they were talking about what investigators do when they approach the murder scene and the kind of red flags that they're looking for that would lead them to believe that there was staging involved in a crime, and how the perpetrator will make the crime scene appear as they think it should because they're relying on things they've seen in movies or on TV or read in books or things that they've just heard. Do you want to speak to that, and what you found or what you feel about that?
Well, and some of the words and some of the departments, when they use staging, posing, and things of that nature of looking at a crime scene, because some aspects of it, as far as staging, is that you're trying to misdirect or drive the investigation in a certain direction, and is that the case here? Because with some of the posing and what can happen at a crime scene, and it's hard to really. You have to rely upon a lot of experience and a lot of training to determine what you see at a crime scene of how the positioning of a body is. Is it part of their fantasy? Is it part of their MO? Is it their signature? Or is it truly someone that's close to them that they know that is trying to drive the investigation in another direction? And it's often difficult to understand. And but now if they're doing certain things that's vile to the victim, then of course that's a totally different manner also.
Well, one of the things when I was doing some research on this with the DOJ and through the FBI, we've got a lot of people out there that have done analysis of this. Obviously, the behavioral science unit from the FBI has studied all of this for quite a few years, since the early mid 70s. And one of the things that they said was that a lot of times these people that commit these murders, that are staging them, they're not governed by the same behaviors or fantasies or symptoms as robbers and sadistic murderers or suicide victims. And so their actions when they're staging the crime will be completely different from the actual, if this actually was a suicide victim or a sadistic murderer or a robber.
Yeah.
In other words, they're only trying to make it look like that because based of, like I said, on what they read or what they've seen on TV or movies. And it really differs from what a real person that is that type of person would do.
Well, it depends a lot upon what the motive is, of this this offender. Is it something that's of a sexual nature? Is it part of their fantasy? Because you're not dealing. There are certain things and the horrors of what these individuals can and will do. But now, some of the staging is that if you're known to the victim and you know that you're going to be one of the first persons to be looked at, a part of staging can be that you're trying to misdirect the investigation. And is that what they're talking about in some of this? But as far as I've seen a lot of homicides, and I didn't see a lot of staging. Most all of them were, that regardless of what they saw or anything that they wanted to misdirect, I just never saw that. Most all of the homicides, a large part, are cut and dry as far as when you get there, you have a victim laying there, especially if it's something that they figure that's going to be discovered and they have no time to spend with the victim. The shorter the time limit of someone has access to a crime scene, the less amount of staging you will have, for the fact that you just can't spend hours and hours with them in an open area or someplace that you might be come
Right.
upon, or people may start looking for the victims, and you're in an area where you can't stay and be able to act out those fantasies. So you won't see a lot of that staging or posing. And I never, like I said, most of the homicides I went to, I didn't see it. And now I worked a lot of death investigations, and there's a difference between death investigations and homicides. You have to determine what they are. And can some of them be staged to be natural or self-inflicted, or truly a homicide, or by who is, there's so many different ways
Right.
that people are found. And sometimes you are tricked. And have I ever been tricked? Probably so.
Well, they were talking about the forensic contradictions
Uh-huh.
that you can see, and that there will be behavioral clues and peculiarities, such as excessive offender
Oh, yes.
activity, that's inconsistent with both the disorganized killer and the superficial motivation for the crime. So seasoned, educated investigators such as yourself would be able to recognize those.
Well, hopefully.
And I'm not saying you're perfect. I'm sure that,
Oh, no. No.
I'm not trying to say that, but you know what I
It's
mean.
it's easy for these people to write books and articles and say that you have all these Sherlock Holmes out there, but that's not the case.
Right.
When you're at a crime scene, there's chaos. I mean, you've got victims that are there, of course, but then you got family members, and you have a time that you're trying to get as much information, trying to identify this victim and trying to identify the offender, because if they've committed such a horrific crime, you have a whole community that's at risk. And are there other victims elsewhere? And, such as with Delphi, those first day, no one in the world ever thought that was a homicide. No
No.
one. And until they found them, no one realized where the case was going and how confusing it was going to be. And even when the investigators first started working on it, that regardless of what happened at the scene, regardless of how vile and how much staging or whatever occurred there, they thought that no matter what information they had, they thought they was going to solve it in just a matter of hours,
Right.
days.
Right, exactly. I was saying that earlier before you came on. Robert Ives, I believe Hammond said it. I think I know that there were like 5 different officers from all the different jurisdictions as well. It wasn't just from the same jurisdiction, who all said the same thing. That when they first came upon the crime scene of Abby and Libby, after they looked at it and everything, they all thought that the crime would have been solved within just a few short days. They, for whatever reason, when they looked at that crime scene, they kind of thought that they were going to be able to solve it quickly.
And you're, as an individual, you're looking at a crime scene and you're assessing the crime scene and you're looking at everything, not only trying to figure out what injuries the victim suffered and were they able to fight or were they restrained, and how did the offender get them there, how did the offender get there themselves, and how did they leave, and you're trying to figure all this out at the same time. It can be extremely confusing, and so it's not a simple matter of just looking at it. Now, you can sometimes look at a crime scene and say, um, yeah, there's something odd about this one. And I think that was the case in this, because I think several of the officers, including Ives, said that, when you looked at it, there was peculiarities at the crime scene. What were those? I have no idea.
Right. Fusa, thank you so much for your gifts of membership. That is such a nice thing for you to do for everyone, and I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
What
thank
a
you.
great supporter.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much. Steffa, that's really interesting that she said she listened to John Kelly, the profiler, today, say that he thought this was a slam dunk case.
And you can't
So
argue against him. I mean, when he says,
he's going to say it, he's going to know.
yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
and
yeah, it's
and like I
definitely
said,
hard to
there's a
argue.
lot of things goes on at those crime scenes, and
Yeah.
first off, the person that's committing such a crime isn't of a normal. I mean, if you're best out, even if you're doing it out of anger, or and you have none of the, you're not a psychopath or a sociopath, but you're doing it out of either jealousy or rage or something, you're still not in full control of your anger, of your emotions, and so you're going to make mistakes and things. But and the the difference between organized and disorganized, you'll see it's easy to identify the disorganized ones. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, for
I mean,
for sure.
oh good.
I think that is so true. And um, so this um information that I was looking at, and then the poster that posted on Reddit said, according to the famed FBI profiler Roy Hazelwood, if the homicide is staged, then the investigator is going to be tasked with determining the motive for the original act of the murder, if possible, and the staging itself. And so then he went on to state what those following motives are most commonly associated with staged murder crime scenes, which is greed. And you've talked about this, where it's the desire for money or property, whatever, and revenge, anger and revenge motivated homicides. And then they stage them to invoke shame, or a sadistic sex motivated murder, or is a robbery gone bad.
Mhm. Yeah, and like I said, more likely you're going to die at the hands of a friend, a loved one, a cousin, family member, than you are by any psychopath that is just by chance. It's very rare that you have those encounters. They do occur, but now I say this with that you as the victim, you don't know when you've crossed the path of such an individual. And you may not realize you have a relationship with some of these sick individuals. And such as with Libya and Abby, how high was their risk, and what had they possibly done that put them at a high risk? Of course, being catfished, uh, they were in a whole new level of danger that they never realized.
Right.
and the family didn't realize, no one realized that those acts were going on. And of course, um, where does that lead one to believe? Is Richard Allen, was he part of that? Was he another one that had also successfully catfished them? And if so, where is that um, link, and what digital evidence is there of that? Because it should be there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
If he had either that digital trails and those tentacles,
Yeah.
no,
We're all
tentacles,
waiting to find out what those are.
God, it just drives me crazy.
I know.
And and are the tentacles with Kagan Klein, or the tentacles with the girls, or is the tentacles with whoever, another
Right.
actor? I mean, it's so confusing.
Yeah, it is. And the more I was reading, staging is a primary means for concealing the true perpetrator of the crime.
Yeah,
That's what they do it for.
yeah.
And
They got to
like you said,
misdirect it, because they could be obvious, and they have to miss. Although I don't think that would be the case with if it does turn out to be that with Richard Allen, because uh, during this whole thing since his arrest, we really don't know of any. I haven't heard of any links to the family that he had prior to that.
no, I haven't either. And I said that on a few live streams the last month or so. What I find so odd about Richard Allen's arrest and him being in jail this long, we haven't had anybody that really knows him come forward and say, "Oh my gosh, it can't possibly be him." We haven't heard from friends. We haven't had, you would think that even though there's a gag order, you would think that there would be somebody out there talking about their relationship with this guy. I mean, if it was my friend, and I would, your first instinct is, if you know the person, they're not capable of doing something like this. You would
I
think you
have
would
no
hear.
doubt that Richard Allen, he knew the family. I mean, he works at the local pharmacy.
Oh,
He
I
knows the
agree. I
family.
think he knows a lot of people in that town. How would you not?
Yes.
I still think, and this is the more I think about it, Steve, that when even the conservation officer, when he was interviewing him way back in 2017, I think he knew this guy. He knew who he was. He knew he worked at the CVS. And he was like, this is just a witness. This guy's here. He's being cooperative. He's giving us you know what I mean? Information. And he put down in his notes, it's in the PCA, that follow-up should be for the 3 juveniles that saw him, that he says he saw there that day. That was where his notes said for investigators to follow up. It wasn't, hey, you might want to follow up with this guy because he claims to be there at the time on the bridge wearing the same clothes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And I apologize in your chat, because like everything on my true crime world and my morning watch, we start off with true crime and we wind up on the Waffle House menu. So if you start seeing references, they already started making them in your chat.
What
about Waffle House. And we digress to the Waffle House menu on the morning watch all the time. So
that's fine.
they're wild. But I appreciate them being over here and supporting you.
Oh, I appreciate them following you here. I always do. I love everybody that follows you. They're always so nice and kind, and we like having all of you here. So I think Mitzi's right. She's like, that's bizarre. Did he not have any friends, no buddies? I mean, he did. He played pool with these people. They were, there are people who drank with him, who know him. I have no doubt in my mind, and nobody's talking. So I just think I've just found that to be really odd.
Well, that,
I don't know.
Of all the names, no one, it wasn't publicized within the community, because it surely would have been, some channel would have mentioned him at some point, that, well, they've all looked at everybody that was on the bridge that day and nobody ever mentioned Richard Allen. So he didn't go and just post it everywhere and say, Oh, I went out there and helped them. I was there that day.
Right, right. Mr. Steve always makes me hungry.
Yeah. I'm gonna,
I
my
love it.
my first sponsor is going to be Waffle House,
I
and
was just gonna say, Steph is like, I love Mr. Steve's Waffle House stories. They are pretty good, I have to admit.
I was out there the other day, and they gave me a cup.
Aw, that's nice. So they know you.
Yes.
Kamala said, Mr. Steve, is that coffee in your Waffle House house mug?
No, I've got it in another one, but I can fill that one up too.
That's funny though that they know you that well.
And Mrs. Steve, we was there. Let's see, 2 nights ago, we went and I took her out on a date night. We went to Waffle House, and she took a picture of the menu, and I've still got to put that in my next show.
Oh, you need to do that. That'd be awesome. That would be funny. Yes, Larry Smith, he did. Richard Allen worked at the CVS in Peru, Indiana. He lived in Peru, Indiana. I believe that there's more to him being in Peru than we are aware of, because the same thing goes for Delphi. He worked at a CVS. There's a lot of people in Peru that knew him. People go to CVS. That's some place that they go, and they frequent it frequently. It's not something they just go to once in a great moon, especially this day and age where the CVS is not just to get your prescriptions. You can go in there and grab groceries. You can go in there and grab all kinds of things that you may need. So it's completely different as far as, and in these smaller communities where they don't have Walmarts and stuff right down the street, people are going to use that.
And that's strange because here in Georgia, CVS is more looked at as a pharmacy versus a store.
Yep.
And you'll see them at all, near the hospitals and everything. And but that's just here. And in that part of the country, yes, I can see where they are more of a general type of store.
Yep. And they here, well, in my area, they're kind of like Walgreens. They're on every corner. I mean, it's just they're everywhere. And but that's what a lot of people will use them for. Oh, I ran out of milk. Yeah, it might be more expensive at CVS, but it's convenient. So I'm just going to run up there at CVS and grab it. But I just think people knew him from being in that scenario. So it often wondered, I was thinking about it. I'm going to throw this out here to you to see what you think. I can't remember if we've talked about this before or not, but I was thinking here the last week or two, what if the Peru search of the Wabash was Richard Allen related and not the Klein related, as everybody had thought? Because he was in Peru, and maybe there was something that was driving them to look there. A phone. I mean, God knows anything.
Well, and that's when did he? And that's a good point. That we always look at it that by coincidence of where Kegan Klein was in jail and had been released for something. But what if their discovery of Richard Allen was through another avenue, and prior to what we expected, because it was only about a month before.
Yes, exactly.
And so it could be independent. And so they said, okay, let's ping his phones and find the history and see where he was at during certain times. And they might have pinged his phone going across that bridge just at a relatively close time period after the homicides.
Yep.
I mean, yes, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's something that could have happened. I don't know.
I know none of us do. And I was just thinking about it because I'm like, well, he does have ties to Peru. And I'm like, his wife, from what I understand, her mother was in Peru sick. She was caring for her, from what I understand, and was away from the home a lot during this period when the girls were murdered. because her mother was ill. And so she was up there in Peru with her mom. So, it's not like he wouldn't have a reason to drive to Peru after these crimes happened. So yeah, I was just thinking that. I mean, all those things started to pop into my head, and I was like, what if we have it all wrong? And what if that search was all about Richard Allen and not about the Kleins like we all thought it was supposed to be?
Yeah, and it's a good it's speculation, of course, but
Yes.
due to the timeline that say yes, he did decide that he's going to go and see his mother or go to another location to change clothes, not go home just in case someone recognized him immediately. And where could you go? Who else do you know that's within 20 or 30 miles? And did he do that? So that's reasonable.
Yep.
Something that law enforcement might have looked at and then saw that yes, he had traveled up to see his mother in Peru,
Yeah.
and he
Lynn
crossed that
says
bridge
some
at a
of his
certain
family,
time.
some of his family lives there.
Yeah, and he crossed that bridge at a certain time after dark because it would probably take him from the time that he left um, Delphi about that time period to get to because it is. I mean, Peru is a nice. Well, I think it's like almost 40, 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good little drive. It's not super close, but it's not super far.
Oh no,
Um,
I drove it several times. I can't remember.
so yeah, I think you're right. I think it's about 40 to 45 minutes from Delphi. Depends on how fast you drive, probably. Um, but yeah, that was just something that just, kind of popped into my head because
And that's how come I like listening to you because I'd never even considered that.
yeah, I was just thinking about it when I started thinking about, well, God bless. After I heard that his wife's mom was sick and that she was helping to take care of her mom and she was working, but she wasn't able to work as much because she was taking care of her very ill mother and was spending a lot of time with her in Peru. So I was like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was driving up there. So that would lead one reason why they ended up going there. Now, what it was that led them to that had to be prior to the first time they spoke to him on the 13th of October that we're aware of. So, like you said, something sent them on that trek where they thought we need to go search. And like you said, if they were able to ping a phone and find out that he was there in the vicinity of the Wabash River right after the murders, maybe they thought he had thrown evidence away.
Now I hope it's the other way. I hope it is absolutely they have something on Kagan,
I know.
and that he's going to flip and say absolutely this is what happened. I hope they have evidence of that. I mean that'd be the best case scenario for the courts and for justice for Libby and Abby.
Yeah. Mitzi, in regards to that question, nobody's ever talked about this from law enforcement's standpoint. So the whole thing about them making some sort of film to share with or sell or whatever about the homicide, that's pure speculation. It's been discussed all over social media, but I don't think that at this point in time, that's not something that I think is going on here. But that's just me. I could be
Well,
wrong.
I think that
Absolutely.
had some basis of what the search warrant got out of hand of the FBI when they said that certain offenders would memorialize certain and take pictures or video. And I think that was the seed that led us or led some people down that route that if there was some type of filming or video
Mhm.
made.
Well, that,
But
and I also think that the whole Garrett Kurtz whole scenario with him as a POI and then his girlfriend stating, supposedly telling him she saw the video
yeah,
of the murder.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think that got everybody, really thinking that there was some truth or validity to that. But I have a hard time believing anything that comes out of Garrett Kurtz's mouth or his ex-girlfriend or girlfriend who are all in jail for murder. So I just
Well, I mean, you have to think about that. They're under the influence of drugs. They may have been watching Michael Myers or some
yeah,
horror movie, and they don't know any difference in their mind.
right. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I totally agree with you. Danger Dave says Steve always brings cuffs to the Waffle House.
He's pretty accurate there. Not so much in the last few years, but I've cuffed quite a few people in the Waffle House.
I bet you've seen a lot of stuff in the Waffle House, haven't you?
Some of it's hilarious. Some of it was just sheer intervention that go ahead and take care of it now because this is good as it gets. We can't let this individual get home to his loved ones.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, the stories you could tell. That's what you should do at some point when you're not busy.
I've
You
threatened
should
I
write
will.
your memoirs and put down your, without revealing the identities of the individuals, of course.
I've threatened that when I retire and on my last few shows, I will do a full disclosure.
That would be awesome. Because I know that you and Perry have got to have some really incredible conversations between the two of you about past cohorts.
I'm telling you. I mean, there's some people that absolutely like to push buttons and to impress their friends. And there's nothing like when there's a patrol car sitting outside the Waffle House. Let's see what we can do to get his attention.
Yeah. Maria said, I feel like he was just taking that lady on a ride when he said that to her. Could be wrong, but I bet he had nothing to share with law enforcement about Delphi. What is it we're talking about, Maria? I'm not sure. Andy Pam says the Ron Logan warrant was looking for video camera equipment. Not sure.
I think she said it was about Kurtz, evidently.
Oh, about Kurtz. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know what she's talking about. She's talking about Open Secrets, who actually did the interviews with Garrett Kurtz in jail. She has a YouTube channel. That's who she's talking about, who he took on a ride. So Melissa says Michael Myers is her favorite horror icon. I'm like, oh God. Oh, let's see. Do you think the new arrests in Indiana have anything to do with the KKK? Or with KK, sorry. Keegan Klein.
It's possible. I
It
mean, you're always
is.
going to have that. I mean, for what he was in and what he was involved in.
Mhm.
And when you have state investigators and state law enforcement serving warrants, it's generally, and there's no local involvement, it generally is something that crosses county lines and is throughout the state, more so than just a local crime.
Well, law enforcement told us that because of Kegan Klein's arrest and the stuff that they did find, that it was going to be the largest CSAM investigation in Indiana's history. So we know he was sharing information. We don't know. He was sharing stuff in a Dropbox. There was all kinds of things going on. And they're obviously going to try to get to the bottom of that and find out who he was sharing it with and see if they can bust them for the same crimes. So at least that, in my feeling, at least they were doing that.
On a side note here, I see some people talking about horror movies. In the state of Georgia, we had an attorney. I don't know if he's still active or even if he's still around. His name was Michael Myers, and he was a defense attorney that only handled, because you have to have certain qualifications, anything that was death penalty related, and because you have to have a certain amount of training for that, and he was. And but he just unfortunately had the name Michael Myers, but he was an extremely brilliant attorney, and I got to watch him a time or two.
Wow. Ray said that he wondered if they were looking for camera equipment because they found marks that a tripod left. Well, I don't know what kind of marks the tripod would have left, but you can speak better to that than me. I mean, you were back there, so
Well, I mean,
you've got leaf stuff all over the ground. You've got it's the middle of winter, the ground is frozen. I mean, you speak to that.
Well, I can tell you this, that if people are trying to figure out that, okay, I'm going to commit this crime, and I'm going to commit a kidnapping, and I'm going to make them cross a creek, and I've already lugged in all the film equipment, and it's set up, which that terrain is absolutely not anything that you would want to walk through day or night. I mean, it's extremely rough and hilly, but there's no way in the world that he had all that equipment on, uh, uh, tripods, cameras,
Exactly.
and camera bags, and able to chase these two girls down, Libby and Abby. That's not part of it. But if you're going to stage an area to commit a crime, you're not going to do it in an area that when you look across and I was there, I was at the crime scene when the neighbor that lived across the street came home, and we looked at each other across the creek. I mean, he was probably 75, 80 yards away, but he stopped and looked right at us. And that is not some place that you would film a homicide.
Right.
Out in the open.
Right.
Looking at a house from a ridge line.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
mean, there's other places you would do that. You wouldn't do it. I mean, even if you were driven by some type of fantasy, that's not the place an organized offender would do. And you wouldn't carry the equipment on yourself because, and I know I've carried a lot of equipment to homicide scenes, and I know how much it takes to get it there. And it's not a simple task. I mean, cameras weigh a certain amount, tripods weigh, and they take up room and stuff.
Right. No, exactly. And if that was the case, in my opinion, there would have to be more than one person. And I'm just at this point in the game, I'm just not convinced of that. And I'm going to have to see a lot more evidence of where that other person would have been and where they disappeared to. And it's like they just kind of parachuted in, nobody saw them, and then all of a sudden they parachuted out and nobody saw them. So I just, I'm just not there yet with that. So,
well, I look at it from the standpoint of being there, boots on the ground, looking at it, and I looked at it as fight and flight. That they took flight, and then they chose the ground to fight, and they were forced to, for the fact that there was not a worse place they could have gone
right.
When they crossed that creek other than where they went, because it was almost like in a bowl. And then did he overcome one of them and catch them there and force the other one back using love as a weapon? Possible. I just don't know.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I still do believe that they very well could have ran from him and tried to get away. So it's we're gonna find out at one point or another.
I think that when he first did the down the hill, I think he had a plan. I don't know. Absolutely, you don't. If you're just there to commit a homicide, you commit homicide and go on.
Right.
But this individual had some intent, and in his mind, he had some location because he said down the hill, and where was we going to go? And I have no idea.
Yeah.
Or was there others down the hill? Don't know.
And, the thing that has always really stuck out to me about this whole crime scene anyway, and that nobody really has ever been able to really pinpoint, and I think we're just going to have to wait until it comes out in court. But Robert Ives said that the crime scene was odd, not something that you would normally think about when you think about a murder scene. So I know people have gone and said, there were stuffed animals there and there were all these things. And, I'm like, I don't believe there were giant dolls or rabbits, or I just don't believe that any of that stuff was there. But I really am curious as to what he thought it was that needed to be photographed. Because he said that if it was, what he saw, you would want to take pictures of.
Yes. And that's one thing when I was there, the cemetery's up on top of the hill, and it's rough country to get there. But I didn't see any of the debris or trash from the cemetery in that location. And you would think that if it was something that naturally occurred, or people came down through the cemetery all the time and carrying stuff, you would still see it even after the homicides. And I didn't see that. And it was just, a wooded area, and extremely rough and steep. But I didn't see anything where people had even brought flowers to that location and to honor.
Yeah. I still think this was part of some sort of a deviant fantasy of his. I just do. It's just,
I do too. I
yeah.
mean, you don't wake up one morning and say, well, I'm going to go over here to the bridge, and it's the day before Valentine's, and I'm going to commit such a crime at a spur of the moment. There's something that put him there that day.
Yep.
In that position. And
I don't think it was random. I mean, I just don't.
Well, I can't wait to hear the testimony whenever they address this issue of, sure, he has a firearm, but how often did he carry it?
Yeah. Where'd you take it? Where did you go with your gun? Do you have does he have a concealed carry? I don't even know if they have to have that in Indiana. I don't know.
I believe they do. I think they do.
I think they do. Yeah, I think they do. I know we do here in Illinois, and I think they do in Indiana. I don't think they've repealed that yet.
But his family and friends and his wives and all of those will know what his normal carry is. And if that's not part of his normal carry and that's what he had on him that day, then of course that shows you a mindset of where the prosecution is going to go with it.
Yeah, exactly, because he's going to have to explain all that stuff. And
he may not explain it, but the jury will interpret it if he doesn't.
Yeah. What is your take? Because I haven't talked to you since all that happened. How are you feeling about this whole how he's been housed and the moving of him and his mental state? What are you thinking about all this?
There is probably no inmate that has been watched more closely than he, provided for more than he, because he is a high profile, and they're going to have to take care of him and get him to court. Now, what he chooses to eat and how he wishes to maintain himself and how he wants to sit there and be photographed and, and look ever what, pitiful he wants to, and to drive a narrative, that's up to him. Now, if he gets himself in a condition that he can't take care of himself, of course, they'll put him in a hospital and put him on IVs and feed him. But he gets to make those choices. Every inmate, they're not torturing him. That's something that everyone likes, or some people may like to try to insinuate, but I don't believe that's the case. And of course, the attorneys are trying to play that narrative also. Who took the pictures? I mean, how did the pictures get out?
Yeah.
I mean, someone had an agenda, and you have to see what that agenda is. Is it sort of going to be like the agenda of the Golden State killer, that when he went to court, he had to be pushed in a wheelchair?
Yeah, exactly. And that they said that a lot of that was an act. he was he was playing that up for the cameras.
Of course. And
Indy
that may
Pam,
be the same with him. I don't have any idea.
yeah, Indy Pam says no concealed carry in Indiana anymore. Do we know when they repealed it though? I think there was still concealed carry in 2017. Was there not?
I believe so. I think
Yeah,
a lot of this constitutional carry is almost within the last couple 3 years. Most
that's
of
what
it.
I thought. Now they don't have to have permits of any kind. They just have to register the handgun if they take it out of their house. So, so yeah, I just know. Were you shocked by how he looked?
No, I've seen inmates uh, when they get bad news and they know what's about to happen to them. And they get depressed and everything else. I mean, it's possible that he is. And, you know, just as much as you can't withhold and torture one, nor can you force people to eat and take
No,
care of
exactly.
themselves.
Yeah.
Only at a certain point can you intervene. And
Well, and if he was really drinking again, as it seems like he may have been, and he's not drinking anymore, he's going to lose weight from that as well, just from the amount of calories and, like you said, going into a depression,
yeah,
which I would see that as normal, no matter who you are. If you're put in that, he's never been arrested before. He has no criminal record. So this is new to him to be locked up in a cell, you know.
mhm.
Uh,
Well,
Um, I
and
don't think it's
if he is alcoholic or something, of course he'll go through that those withdrawals and whatever it is that they
mhm.
go through. And I don't know. I don't know the exact date that picture was made.
Yeah. I don't think any of us do either, but I knew he was losing weight from when I saw him coming down the stairs out of the courthouse when he was in the yellow jumpsuit, and you see him and you could see his knee and how small his leg was. I thought then, the guy's really lost weight, but he's really lost weight when you look at him in this picture, compared to what he was, when they arrested him. That was just my opinion. But
Yeah.
like you said, you're not doing anything. They're probably not giving him a whole lot of exercise. If he's refusing to eat, all of those things, and then the
Yeah.
stress of it all.
Well, he gets everything that the courts advise that he can have um, and will have. You know, I mean,
I
he's
read
guaranteed
somewhere
that. I mean,
I
you
I
can't stand in the way of that. He's guaranteed that.
I read somewhere where they had other inmates watching him 24/7. They had other inmates sitting outside his cell keeping an eye on him, and I'm like, and I think I read that in a news article, and I'm like, they don't do that, do they, Steve? They're not going to let other inmates watch him, are they?
Well, I mean, there's always in jails, and when you're in general populations or you're in an area that is visible from certain points, that you know will correctional with staff say, hey, if y'all see something, if you see him doing something in between our normal checks, give us a shout out, because you may have trustees and everything that's in certain areas of the jail during certain times. So could someone that's a trustee that's in a certain area and the jail staff say, hey, as you go by, I just but they'll have their own schedule of when they check, but
Right.
you know, and um, because some of these trustees, they're in there not for anything that you would think is, and they have a relationship with the sheriff or whatever, and they are um, uh, almost a law enforcement for the fact that they will work with you, because you have to have a certain trust to some of these trustees because they're working on your patrol cars, uh, and
Mhm.
they're putting the wheels and they're changing the tires on your car, and you go get in it and you're driving 120 mile an hour, and so you have to have a certain amount of trust in some of them, but um, could jail house staff at some point ask one, say, when you walk by, if you see something strange, give me a call. It's possible,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't be doing it. That's the only um, observation of him.
Well,
No.
I just thought that could be very high stressful for him if those individuals happen to be heckling him or, not.
Oh, that's gonna happen.
I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
yeah, calling him all kinds of things and,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
whatever.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Oh yeah. You see that. Um, but and then of course, you know, um, you just can't let him be harmed.
No, exactly. And, that was my concern too. I was just like, he is innocent until proven guilty. So that was where I was going with it. When I saw it and was hearing it, I was like, wait a minute, he hasn't even been convicted of anything yet. So it's not like he's a prisoner. He's just being held till he can appear in court. And he did. And this was one of the things that I said too, which I understand why he did it, but still he has to take responsibility for it. He has due process. He
Oh,
could have asked for an immediate trial of his innocence. He could have asked them to set the trial. Of course, his defense attorneys were going to advise against that because they needed to get discovery and set up some sort of a plan for his defense. But he's the one who said I was okay with sitting in jail until, however long. I mean, it's not like they threw up their arms. I didn't hear anybody say that the defense went crazy when she rescheduled his bail hearing for June.
yeah. Yeah.
All of those things are odd to me.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if
like I
you're an
said,
innocent person, I would want my defense attorneys arguing to get me the heck out of jail and as fast as possible. Why didn't they do that?
I don't think he'll ever be out of jail.
Oh, I don't either.
No. Excuse me.
You okay?
Oh yeah, I just ran out of coffee.
You know me. Me and my asthma, I do enough coughing for both of us.
No, I've been breathing in so much grass from bush hogging that that's good for your allergies.
Yeah, for sure. Not good. Yeah, David, you're right. There are a lot of nice horses in the Kentucky Derby this year. I was looking at some of them. They're beautiful. Yeah, not all prisoners are bad. I didn't say that. There are some prisoners that are in prison that do have compassion.
Oh yeah, I saw. We
For other
actually had
human beings. Not all of them are.
well, we've had some officers that were attacked before, and if it wasn't for other inmates, they would have lost their lives.
Would have lost their lives, yeah. And I know that happens in prison. So that's always to me a good thing to know that there's those types of people in there, because everybody knows that is a very violent place that you really don't want to be. And the men and women who walk into those prisons every day and put their lives on the line to try and keep order that crazy jungle that it turns out to be. We owe them all a debt of gratitude.
Oh, I have utmost respect for them because they go in there
too.
unarmed with just
Yep.
whatever they carry that's non-lethal or just knowledge, and they're outnumbered 25, 30 to 1. And whereas out there on the road, you may be facing firearms, knives, dogs, and just sheer, maybe a carload of people. But I much rather face a carload of people than a jail cell full of people.
Dave said Steve ran out of coffee. Call the police.
He knows me well.
I was just gonna
at
say.
some point, I on my bucket list is to sit down with Dave across and have a cup of coffee with him.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. So, but yeah, they're talking about goats in the in the chat. I think Maria needs to mow, and they're telling her Ray Jones told her to think about getting some goats or get goats. Oh boy. How's Mrs. Steve doing? She doing okay?
Well, she was until we went grocery shopping tonight.
Uh-oh.
I was able to take a bag of groceries and put it on the stovetop, and another bag of groceries turned on an eye. Do you know how upset someone can get when you burn up a bag of groceries?
Did you really?
I That's what I was doing for about 30, 45 minutes is getting the bag of the Walmart bag that had melted to the eye, plus a container of all things, Coffee Mate. I melted a full jug of Coffee Mate and a Coffee Mate into the stove eye. But she handled it relatively well. I'm still here.
God bless you. I can just imagine what she was saying.
Oh yeah, she came from the back of the house about 30 minutes later, and she says, "Well, it's a good thing you put it out or got it off the eye when you did, because you can smell it in every room in this house."
Oh my God. It reminds me of my neighbor. She and her husband, she used to store everything under the sun in her oven. And I mean, seriously, she would put newspapers in there and all kinds of stuff because they never used the oven. Her husband got up one afternoon and decided he wanted a frozen pizza. So he turned the oven on and almost caught their entire house on fire because of all this stuff that was stored in the oven. So
Well, I didn't even
yeah.
know it was on until I reached in and got the cup of sour cream, and it was really warm.
Oh my God.
And as I put it in the refrigerator, and I said, "That's not normal." And then I looked, and of course, you could see the bag was melting and the container was melted, but it was
Oh,
just a
Steve.
very interesting experiment.
Oh, you're funny. Yeah, make sure you take pictures of that so you can show it on your next live for your whole crime scene.
Oh,
Just tell him.
that's a
Just
good
tell her.
idea. I've got to get the Coffee Mate um, uh, thing.
Container.
Yes, I threw it away because I put it in another container because it melted one side of the it melted the label off of the Coffee Mate.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Sorry. I think I'll be giggling about that one for a while.
Oh
But
yeah,
it happens.
that
Those
was my first
stovetops
thought.
that
It was my first thought. This is hilarious. Mrs. Steve's going to really like this.
yeah. Well, especially now with the price of groceries, you don't good thing it wasn't eggs. She might have lost her mind.
Oh, I'm telling you. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's crazy. So what have you been working on? Where
Well,
have
we're
you
getting ready to go to Texas on the Amber Crumb case
Okay.
in a couple. Let's see, I'm supposed to be out there. So this whole week I'm packing, getting everything ready. So I'll have when the team shows up in Texas that we only have a few days, to get everything done, and so we'll get that done, and then of course look at some other cold cases. And I've got to go back up to Iowa in July and look at some other cases in Texas. So whenever I go, I may go out and um, uh, look at some of that, some other cold cases. And I really want to go through and I want to spend some time in Florida at some point. And I know you have that dear to your heart, and I want to go up there.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's all of those are good things and great things. I'm glad that you're still keeping busy and still keeping out there. I didn't expect you to be doing anything else. And now that it's warming up, hopefully around most of the country anyway.
Yeah.
Like I said, today we had snow. It was just crazy. I mean, I looked outside and I was like, oh my Lord, it's snowing.
Oh, I know. And that, um, and that's how come I wanted to do everything that we could in the South during the winter. But still, it took me so long to get everything. We've been postponed going to Texas twice. I wanted to go in March, and then it was in April, and now it's here in May. And but we'll get it done now.
Kamala wants to know what case in Florida.
I don't have anything in Florida. It's in Texas.
It's in Texas, yeah. I was gonna say I didn't think it was in Texas or in Florida. I mean, I thought it was.
But now, I have a friend that's working on a case in Florida. I may have mentioned that to somebody. I don't know, and that may be what they're feeding off of. I don't know, but I do have a friend that's working a case in Florida.
That is an absolutely fantastic show, Steffa. The Keepers. If you guys haven't had a chance to see it on Netflix, you need to watch it. It is an unsolved murder of a nun. Hang on a second, guys. I'll be right back.
She's left me in total control now, guys. I'm as good as it's going to get now, so we can do whatever we want to. But I want to thank everyone that supports Kristen so much, because she absolutely deserves it. She is brilliant, and I love watching her shows, and I relax to it. And I hope y'all come over and relax when you watch her. I don't know if there's been a holiday passed yet that she hadn't sent me a kind message during those days, and so I consider her a close friend.
There you are. Sorry, guys.
Hello.
I had to take that call. I apologize. But yeah, this is the Keepers is a really good show that they were talking about in chat. And it's an unsolved murder of a nun in a Catholic school, and you will not believe the ups and downs and turns and rabbit holes in that case. I'm not kidding you. It's crazy. But
it's not based on anything true, is it?
Yeah, it's a true story. It's an absolute true story. Yes. It's called The Keepers. Wow. It's on Netflix. So
I hardly ever get to watch anything other than when I entered this world of true crime, I never knew how busy you could be. And then when doors started opening and people wanted certain things, and trying to help them, you get behind. I am so far behind on so many things.
I get you. I hardly get to see a lot of the shows that I used to watch for the last year since I came into YouTube. Just putting together shows and doing research on cases. That's enough when you've got a family and you've got grandkids and you've got all the other things that life throws at you. So I can't even imagine with you doing all the stuff you're doing on top of that,
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, the government trained me to do a certain job, and hopefully I'll be able to. And I never considered it when I retired. I thought I was done with it, and I would have been, except that I just happened to turn on YouTube one day and saw the Delphi thing, and I've never regretted one moment of it.
We are so glad you did that, because I'm serious when I say it, and I've heard it from so many people. You are amazing, and the channel that you've created and the community that you've created, your heart's in it. Everybody can tell you're in it for all the right reasons, and you're such a down-to-earth person when it comes to law enforcement. I know that law enforcement gets a bad rap a lot, and there's a lot of stuff out there right now going on in this country about law enforcement and things. And I'm not saying that law enforcement doesn't need to have some changes made, because I do think there needs to be. But I also know that you guys put your lives on the line every single day.
Some of us do, and there's some of them out there that's absolute idiots.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the guys in Memphis that I think it was Memphis that did the whole where they basically killed the kid, that they were all those police officers that were involved in that. That just gives law enforcement a bad name. That's what causes a lot of the unrest around law enforcement. That's not the majority of law enforcement in our country.
No.
That's the minority.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm glad that you're in true crime. I'm glad you're here to discuss the cases with us and your opinions, because to me, when I look for direction, I want to look for you, or I want to look for Perry, or somebody who has that kind of background, who I know is going to be honest and
Yeah.
give a really, good synopsis of things. Dave's hilarious. He said something earlier. I just missed it. I was going to tell you while you were talking, but he says he's got the spiders that you wanted. I don't
Yeah.
know what he's
D-
talking about there.
well,
I love spiders, by the way.
Dave
So
and Mrs. Steve came up with the true crime web
okay, yeah.
because I hate spiders.
Okay, I remember now.
Yeah. I'm not. Nothing else that walks this earth bothers me as much as a spider that you can't see or hear in the dark, and it just and I guess it's part of
Oh,
running through
that's
the
what it
woods at night chasing people, and you
was.
run into a spider web, and it just some of those spider webs are huge at night, and I just uh,
Oh, I
that
love
was
them. I love spiders. The little
oh I don't
jumping spiders, they're
oh
so
I don't
cute, Steve. You
uh-huh.
need to see. So I'll send you some of the YouTube channels that you can watch. They're so cute. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's they're cute and it's hilarious. Burn up your groceries, and
did you see what Dave said? Number
no,
4 on the menu at the Waffle House comes with free chair throwing.
it, he's not far wrong.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad that you were here to come on with me tonight. I really am, because I've missed you, and it's like I just don't have enough time in my day. Since
I
you're
don't
on right
either.
before me,
I
there's
hate
so
that I
many
don't get
times when
around. I hate that I don't get around as much as I used to, and but I'll try. But we've got
it's
a full year of things that we've got to do, and hopefully we can have an impact on, you know, each of the cases that we look at, and as we
yeah,
work on, it's a long shot. I mean,
I know.
it's a million to one
I
to
know.
even, and but it's worth the effort, and
It
so that's
is,
all that
because
we
at
can do.
least you give hope to those families.
Oh yeah.
That something may come of it. And when you get new eyes looking at things, you never know what's gonna transpire. And man, if I had a case that was cold out there, I'd want you on it. That's
Well,
just me.
we I work as hard as I can for them, and I have great hope every time I go at it. And r- regardless, though, when you do look him in the eye, and uh, such as Larry, Larry said that for 40 years he'd been asking people to look at Amber, and I was the first law enforcement officer ever to do so.
And see, that to me just touches my heart. I mean, it just touches my heart, a story like that.
Mhm.
Because you were there, and you have such a big heart. And for everything that you've seen so much evil and so much bad, and the worst of the worst in people.
Mhm.
And now that you're retired, you're still willing to put yourself out there for these, for that lack of a better word, these horrific monsters that
Well,
take these loved ones from us.
it's and it's a fine line, and it's a lot of people say, is it they care so much, or he hates crime or these criminals so much, and I absolutely do hate these people that prey upon the innocent, and I absolutely, if I had a choice of being able to um, uh, talk to some of these truly evil people in a private conversation, I absolutely look forward to it.
Out behind the shed.
Wherever,
I know.
just wherever, and, because I don't hide. I don't hide when I go either.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
No, I
and
get it. I get it.
I do absolutely do. Um, I've never wanted people, and I've seen so many good people that were terrorized and absolutely fell victim to the most evil things that could ever happen. And some of these most vulnerable, such as our children, that are targeted by these animals, they don't stand a chance.
Right. No,
They never
exactly.
stood a chance from the
They
time
don't.
that they crossed paths, and they just never realized it.
Yeah. And it's the truth. And it's just they need people like you fighting for them. I think that my voice is a good one to have out there because I like to cover the cases that nobody hears about sometimes. It's like the victims. I just covered a missing woman from 2020 tonight on the channel that a person that says she lives in the Bay Area in San Francisco has never even heard that the woman's missing. And so it's things like that, it's like just bringing the eyes of the public to these cases. Maybe somebody remembers something or has some information
Yeah.
that they can share and help.
And
So,
the Doug Carter, who's one famous words, all we need is one tip. And that's true on all cases. The
yep,
right tip will solve it.
exactly.
We just got to make them aware. And that's one thing I like about all the channels, regardless. Some channels are a little bit more controversial than others, but they still bring awareness. And so I can't follow them all the time.
Right.
And so as long as they getting the message out there, and can we get it out there to the right person so that they can bring closure? So it's all good in the end.
Yep, I agree with you. Well, I'm going to get off because I've got somebody coming to my house tonight, actually.
Excellent.
So I'm going to get off. I'm going to jump off of here, but I really absolutely am thrilled that you were able to come on with me. I was happy to see you in chat, and I've got to be able to start. I mean, I always put it on my calendar. I want to stay up for your late night, your mornings. I want to be there for those conversations. And so
Well,
I'm
like
going
I
to make
said,
one of those.
those shows run about an hour to hour. Well, no, they run an hour and a half, a little bit over, for the fact that the first 30 to 45 minutes, I try to talk about crime. And then, of course,
It just goes downhill.
Mrs. Steve isn't there to steer me.
To reel them in.
Yes. But anyway, I'm going to go back upstairs and work on the stove a little bit more.
All right.
And
Well, I hope that you get it all cleaned out and fixed, and don't forget to take pictures so you can put it on your next live stream. You'll just have to tell them it was a crime scene investigation.
oh yeah, I tell you, it's just one of those things. I don't even know what was in the other bag that hit the controls that turned it on, but it hit the controls just right and put it on high, which is
Yeah.
yeah. If you really want to melt stuff, put it on high.
I can definitely see that happening. But yeah, I do want to see the morning watch with you. I have
Okay.
not got to be live with you, and I definitely want to do that. So
well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
you're welcome, my dear. Thank you so much. Please give Mrs. Steve my love, and you guys be safe. Hopefully I'll talk to you before you head out to Texas.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Thanks, guys. I had a great evening with you all tonight. I hope you did learn some stuff. It's always great to have Steve on. Thank you so much for all of you being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. To all my moderators, thank you so much for all you do for me. Fusa, thank you so much for all your membership gifts tonight. That is so kind of you, and I appreciate it. And I know the members will appreciate it as well. And yeah, Boston, I just love him, and he makes me just laugh. I just laugh. So, it's always a good thing. But I will see you guys all on Tuesday night. Everyone have a great rest of your evening, and be safe out there. And please, please, please be kind. Thank you so much.